Hello guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Today we are making this super cute festive granny square book sleeve. You can change out the colors so you can make it Valentine's Day themed, Halloween themed, Thanksgiving themed, just whatever you would like. So let's go ahead and get into the materials you will need. For this tutorial, you're going to need a threading needle, a pair of scissors, and a 3.5mm crochet hook. So let's go ahead and get into the yarn colors you will need. Okay, you're going to need red, white, and green acrylic weight 4 yarn. You can use cotton. I'm just using acrylic because that's what I have right now. And these are all I Love This Yarn brand from Hobby Lobby, in case you wanted the exact colors. I'm going to start with our white, so let's grab our hook and white yarn. Okay, so to start our granny square, we're going to make a magic ring. Then we're going to chain 3, so 1, 2, 3. We're going to do 2 double crochet into our magic ring. So to do a double crochet, yarn over, go into your magic ring, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, then yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. That is one double crochet. So let's do one more. Go into the circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to do 3 double crochet and chain 3. So just like before, regular double crochet, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. Here's our second double crochet and our third double crochet. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We can close our circle a little bit, and we're going to repeat this 2 more times, 3 double crochet and chain 3. So 1 double crochet, here's our second double crochet, our third one, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and now we're going to repeat this 1 more time. So double crochet, our second double crochet, and our third double crochet, chain 3, 2, 3. So you should have 4 little clusters. So now we're going to close our magic circle by pulling on this strand and holding onto our work. So to connect our granny square, we're going to go into this chain that counts as a double crochet. So this is our first double crochet, second, and then this little top part would count as the top of the third double crochet. Slip stitch into it, pull up a loop, and to slip stitch, instead of yarning over, you're just going to immediately pull through the loop on our hook. So now you can cut off your yarn so we can switch to our green yarn. Pull your hook out and just pull this shut, and it may look a bit off or odd, but you can just sort of make the square shape with your fingers like this. The first round of our granny square. For round 2, we're going to pull our green yarn right where we connected this square. So we're going to go right here into this corner, pull our green yarn through, and what I like to do is tie it to the white tail that we just cut. And I like to make about 3 or 4 knots just to make sure it is sturdy and won't come undone, because the first 2 knots are a bit loose. They can come out very easily. Okay, so now we can put our hook through this chain space, yarn over your green yarn and pull it up. We're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to work 3 double crochet into this space, chain 3, and 3 more double crochet. And we're going to do that in each space except this last one. 3 double crochet, chain 3, 3 double crochet. So let's do the first one together. 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and 3 more double crochet all into the same space. 1, 2, and 3. To get to the other loop, we're going to chain 1 and then immediately go into the 3 double crochet, chain 3, 3 double crochet. So 3 double crochet, chain 3, and 3 more double crochet. So I'll let you do the last one by yourself, and I will meet you on our last little chain we need to do. So chain 1, and then do this one. I will meet you here. So I did my chain 1 and 3 double crochet in this last little space. So now we need to chain 3 and do 3 more double crochet. But this chain right here we started with counts as a double crochet. So we really only need to do 2 more double crochet. There's 2. So to connect to this chain, we have to go into the second chain from the top. This counts as this double crochet, so ignore that. This is the top of the chain, which counts as the chain 1 to reach this side. So we're not going into this first one, we're going into the second chain. So go into the second chain and slip stitch, and then you can cut off your yarn, leave a nice tail to weave in. Pull your hook through. Now we're going to connect our red yarn again in the same place where we cut off our green yarn. So we're going to go right here next to it in this little space. Come in right here, bring your red yarn through and tie it to your green tail that you just cut off. And then I like to just bring the ends to the back. So now we're going to go into the space, yarn over and bring up the red and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to do 2 double crochet into the same space that we just did our chain 3 in. So here's our first one and our second double crochet. Now we're going to chain 1 and we're going to go into this space right here, our chain 3 space. And again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 3 double crochet, chain 3, 3 double crochet into this corner. So let's do 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, chain 3, 3 more double crochet into the same space. 2, and here's our third double crochet. So now we're going to chain 1. So now we have this little middle space in between the corners. So in these middle spaces, we're going to do 3 double crochet, all in the same space. So 1, 2, 3, chain 1. Now we're in the corner space, so we're doing 3 double crochet, chain 3, 3 double crochet. And we're just repeating this around. So in this middle space, we're doing 3 double crochet, chain 1 to reach the corner, 3 double crochet, chain 3, 3 double crochet. So I will do this second corner with you, and then I will let you finish and I will meet you back here. So let's do our 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, 3 more double crochet into the same space. 2, 3, again chain 1 and do 3 double crochet in this middle space. So I will meet you once we have gone all the way around so we can connect our square. Okay, so I just finished my last corner. So to connect, we're going to chain 1 and join with a slip stitch into the top of this third fake double crochet, which is really our chain 3. So go into this time we're going into the top very first chain and connect with a slip stitch. Then you can cut off your red and pull your hook through. So now we have all these little ends to weave in. Make sure to weave them into the back of the project. This prettier, smoother side is the front, and this rougher, bumpier side is the back. And there are only 3 rounds to this granny square. These are really small because we just need to make enough to fit a book in it. I made 1 more off camera, so our book sleeve is going to be 3 across and then only 2 rows. So we'll have 6 total for one side and 6 for the other side. So if you want, you can work 1 square all at once, or what I prefer to do is make the squares with 1 color at a time. So I'll do all the whites first, then on every white square I'll go in and do the green, and I'll cut off, start this square, do the green, cut off, do the green round on this. Once I finish all the green rounds, I'll go in again and finally finish each one off with the red, cut off, we'll move on to the next, do the red round, cut off, So you can do whatever you would like, if you want to do one square at a time or do one round at a time, but just make 12 squares, and I will meet you once we have 12 squares so we can start connecting them. Okay, so after we have made all our squares, now we actually need to connect them. This is the hardest part. I will try my best to demonstrate. So we are connecting our squares with a flat slip stitch, which is very slow and annoying, I won't lie. So I'm going to try to show this as best as possible because it's super hard to demonstrate. We're gonna go into the corner and work our way down. And since we did a chain 3, we're going into the middle chain, which is the second one right here. And we're going to go into the front loop. So this would be the front loop. And right here is the back loop. So we have to go into the front loop from the top down. Usually I go into my work from the bottom up, but we have to go in from the top down. And we start with just a regular slip knot with whichever color you want to connect with. So once you made your slip knot, can go into the first square from the top down. Again, just the front loop only. Then grab your other square. The wrong sides are going to be facing each other, and then the right sides are on the outside. So now we're going into the same corner stitch, which is the second chain right here. And this time we're going into the back loop. So this one would be the back loop right here. And then this is the front loop. Again, we have to go in from the top of our work, go in from the top into the back loop. And then you have to turn your work towards the back also. This is confusing, so you can just lay your work down, make sure the front sides are facing up. The working yarn also has to be in the back here, and it has to be under our work. You shouldn't be working with your yarn up here. It should be down here in the back and under. So now we have to do a slip stitch. So just yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. So there's the first square, the second square, and then our slip knot. It's a bit tight, so I just pick it up with my finger and pull it over. There we go. That was our first slip stitch. So now we're just going to work into every single stitch all the way down to connect the front loop on this front square, and then go into the back loop on the back square all the way down. So now we have to go into one more chain from the corner of our square. So this is the double crochet, so that means right here is the chain. And again, going from the top into the front loop, make sure this yarn is under and behind our work, so you can drop it for now. Go into the back loop again from the top down. Okay, and I like to just sort of lay it down when I'm slip stitching, just because it's way easier. So again, make sure this working yarn is in the back and under our work. It's not on top. So slip stitch, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on our hook. Okay, so now we do this again. Now we're actually working into the top of the double crochet. So we're going into the first double crochet right here. Again, the front loop only, coming in from the top. Make sure this working yarn is under. I always forget. Go into the back loop only from the top down, and then turn your hook out towards the back. That way we can yarn over. Oh, wait, no. See, look, this is on top of our work. It has to be under like this. Pull through all 3 loops on our hook. So this part is a little tricky because you have to pull it through under your work and then pull it through these last 2 loops. Now we're in this middle double crochet. Go into the front loop from the top down. Go into the back loop from the top down. Again, turning our hook out here towards the back. Make sure working yarn is underneath your work, your project. Yarn over, and then I'm just bringing this up closer to show y'all. Pull your work through to slip stitch, and then finish your slip stitch. Okay, so now we're in this last double crochet of the corner. Go into the front loop only, go into the back loop only here in the back. turn our work out here towards the back. That way we can yarn over and then slip stitch through all 3 loops on our hook. Your flat slip stitch should be looking like this. When you pull it, this is how it looks like. It's, of course, like the name says, it is very flat. It's not going to be raised. And the way you get this effect is by having your working yarn underneath your project. As you can see, it's not on top. Usually when you're working with crochet, your working yarn is on top. You can see it, you can single crochet, but here it has to be underneath. So you have to go under your work to yarn over and slip stitch. That is what makes this a flat slip stitch. I just wanted to explain that real quick because when I tried following tutorials for the flat slip stitch, that was not clarified to me. So I was working with my yarn, with my working yarn on top, and it was not looking right at all. So if you're struggling and you can't get it right, that is probably why your working yarn is not in the back and underneath your project. So we're just doing this all the way down. I'll do a few more stitches with you. So now we're back into this chain space. We only did a chain 1 here to get to these double crochets. So we're only slip stitching 1 chain here. Instead of it, we're in a corner, we did 3 or 2 because the third one is over here on this side. We didn't actually do the slip stitch into that 3rd chain. But yes, we're just slip stitching into 1 chain. So go in the front loop from the top down, go into the back loop from the top down, turn our hook out here towards the back, yarn over under our work, and then pull through all 3 loops on our hook. So that was the chain 1 space. Now we're working again onto the top of these 3 double crochet. So go into the front loop, go into the back loop, turning our work towards the back, yarning over under our work, and then pulling through all 3 loops on our hook. So do this all the way down, and then I will show you how to connect the next 2 squares like this. Okay, so to connect your next squares, ignore this. I had to make sure I was doing it right so I could show y'all. Again, we're going in through the front loop only and then back loop only. And again, make sure your working yarn is underneath the project. So we're going to pick up this back square and go in through the front loop only on this back square this time, instead of doing a front loop only on this square. Again, going in the middle of our corner here, so this chain 2 spot right here, like before, going in from the top down, going through the front loop only, from the top down, grab your 2nd square that we need to connect, find the same stitch on the 2nd square, which would be, this is a chain 1, chain 2, so right here, and go in through the back loop, again from the top down, so like this. You can lay your work down, it's just a lot easier. Our working yarn is underneath our project, so that's good. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and then we can tighten it. So again, drop your working yarn to make sure it's underneath our project. We're going into the last chain here, into the front loop only, go in through the back loop only on this other square. So right there, back loop only, grab your working yarn from underneath, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Okay, put it underneath your work. Now we're working into the top of the double crochets, so go into the front loop only, grab your other square, go in the same stitch, so right here, in the back loop only, grab your working yarn, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. And as you can see, it looks the exact same as our first squares did. And you're just going to repeat this all the way down, as you can see, like I did here. When you finish going down the whole square, you connect your next squares in the corner, making sure that your working yarn again is underneath your project. So I'll do one more with you. We're going to the middle double crochet now, go into the front loop only, go into the back loop only on this square, grab your working yarn, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. And we're going to do this for all 12 squares. Just work all the way across, connect your next squares and your next squares till it's all one long piece, and then I will be back to show you how we can connect them going down this way. But first we have to connect them all into one long piece. Okay, so I have just attached all 12 squares, and now we're just going to fold it in half. So 6 are on the front and 6 squares are on the back here. So we're going to put the last squares we attached on the front. They're going to be on our left side, and now we have to attach the squares vertically, so up and down right here, and on the other side, of course. So to do that, we're going to cut off our yarn. I would cut a long tail so you can weave it in. All right, you can just pull your hook out. We're just going to turn our work and do the exact same thing that we have been doing. I'm going to do front loop on this front square and then go through the back loop on this square. And again, just go down, attach these 2 squares, and then you can cut off your yarn. When we reach this flat slip stitch that we just did, I'm going to skip it, go over it, and go into our corner stitches. So let's attach our yarn again by making a slip knot, and we're going to do our first slip stitch here by going into the front loop on the middle chain and the back loop on this other square in the same middle chain. Again, remember your working yarn has to be behind and under. Here is under, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Okay, so next stitch is the last chain of the corner. So front loop from the top down, then the back loop, again bringing our hook to the back here, making sure our working yarn is under and behind our project, and then slip stitching through all 3 loops on our hook. So I will meet you once we get here, just so I can visually show y'all how to skip over the stitch in case you're confused. Okay, so I have just gone into the middle chain of our corner right here. So now we're going to cross over this flat slip stitch. So now we're going to go into the middle stitch here on the other square. We're not even going to pay attention to this flat stitch. And so now we have to switch into going in the front loop on this back square. So that would be right here. This is the front loop. And then going into the back loop on this front square, which would be right here. And we're switching because it would be very difficult to keep working underneath our work all the way across. It was okay with this first square just because there wasn't really nothing in front of us. It was just this square. But now we'll have this whole square in our way when we're trying to work under. So now we have to bring our working yarn out and under our work right here to the other side. So now we can work into it. So let's go into the front loop on this back square, which is right here. Again, we have to go into it from the top down. So there's the front loop, and now the back loop, which is right here. Let me see if I can bring y'all a little closer. Yarn over and just slip stitch through all 3 loops on our hook. Don't forget to drop your work, make sure it's underneath. So now we're going into the last chain of our corner, which is right here. And then right here. So into the front loops, which is right here. And now into the back loop, which is right here. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on our hook. Now we're actually going into the top of the double crochets. So into the front loop and now into the back loop. Yarn over and slip stitch through everything. Okay, and as you can see, there is our flat slip stitch. And you're just going to continue all the way to the top into the corner, cut off your yarn, leave a long tail to weave in, then move on to your next square right here, attach on this side, then work all the way down. Oops, these squares got flipped around. And then I don't know if it was obvious enough, but we're only working through these top squares. We're not working into the bottom squares at the same time because I would just sew everything shut. So yeah, I just folded my project in half just so it was easier to work with and I didn't have this whole thing flopping around. But yes, we're just going to repeat this flat slip stitch vertically all the way across all 12 squares here. So I will meet you once we have finished this last set of squares, so then now we can slip stitch all the way around the outside of our project. Okay guys, so I have finally attached all of our squares, and again I just folded it in half. So now we have to do a green border all around our project. So to do that, we're going to start at the top of our project. This is going to be the top where we put the book in. We have to do slip stitches all around the top of these squares. And then once we get down here to the side and bottom, these need to be sewn shut, of course, so the book does not fall out. This is going to be the only opening here at the top. So once we get down to the side, that's where we will connect both sides of our book cover, and then slip stitch this shut, turn a corner, and slip stitch down the bottom with the same flat slip stitch. But for now, we're just going to do the top. We're not sewing the top shut, we're just doing the slip stitch border. So again, make a slip knot, and we're going to start at the front. We're going to go into the corner, the middle stitch, and we're just going to work into the back loops only. So just pull the work through and slip stitch like normal, and then just slip stitch down the entire front half of the project in the back loop only. So here's our second back loop slip stitch. Here's our next one. Now we're going into the chain 1 area. Now back on top of the double crochets, and this is what your work should be looking like. This is what the back will look like, and as you can see, it looks similar to the flat slip stitch. So just work this back loop slip stitch all the way around to the back of the project, and we will end right here in this corner, so then we can start sewing this shut. And I will show you how to slip stitch once you reach this little middle part between the squares. Okay, so we just need to do one more slip stitch into the corner of this square before moving on to our next square. So right here, your squares may look the same, to where there is just this one little stitch by itself and it looks like there's no back stitch. You just have to sort of turn your work to the back, and these lower stitches right here, one of these is the back stitch, and honestly you can just sort of pick whichever one is easier to go into to use as a back stitch. So I'm going to just make sure to go into one. It's right here, and slip stitch. There we go. So now to go into the flat slip stitch, we're just going to find whichever stitch is up here at the top sticking out. So that would be this one for this square, and again just slip stitch, then move on to our next square. So the first back loop would be right here, slip stitch. Next one would be right here, slip stitch, and just work down like normal. So when you get to this square, you would go into this stitch when you are connecting. So I will meet you right back here on the back corner so we can start sewing everything down together. Okay, so I have just gone all the way around with the slip stitch. Now we're finally connecting. So to connect, we're going to go into the middle stitch of the corner, and then the last stitch of the corner, and then our double crochets. So we're going to start on this back square like before, going in through the front loop and then coming back out here in the back loop on the front square. Again, making sure our working yarn is underneath our project. So yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on our hook, and that is our first flat slip stitch. Again, doing the same thing, making sure the working yarn is under our project. Oh, okay, that was actually the last stitch of the corner. So now we can just go directly into the double crochets. So go into the front loop only, then go into the back loop only of the front square, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. All right, and our squares are officially connected, as you can see here. So now we're just going to work the flat slip stitch, sewing both sides of the book sleeve together all the way around. Reach down here into the previous flat stitches we did. You can either just turn this so the last stitch is right here, and then just go into the front loop here, which would be this one, and connect your work that way, and then again go into the same stitch on the back, which honestly would just be this one right here, and connect it like that. Or you can also just work into this little stitch here that is from weaving in our ends. You can pick whichever one. I would just go into the front loop only right here and then connect it like that. And then for these side ones, go into this stitch right here, just sort of like that. Just don't catch the red. And then connecting on the other side the same way, or even just catching this little stitch that is sticking up and out, unless you tightened it really good like I did. So then I would just go into whatever green stitch is next, like this. This part is honestly just up to personal preference, depending on the way you sewed in your ends. It's not gonna matter too much because you're not really gonna see it. It's the bottom of these sleeves, so you'll be fine. So again, I'll just meet you once we reach the last slip stitch over here in the corner. Now on the very last corner of our project, and I think I can do one more slip stitch into this corner. So let's do our last one together. Here is the front loop only. The back loop is here. It's a little tricky to get into. So I'm just going to hold it with my finger. Okay. And then our last slip stitch. There we go. Then we can cut off a long tail to weave in. Pull your yarn out, and now we have to connect this end to this end over here. So to do that, I literally just weave in and out, making sure this is tight. There we go. Then I go back in this last stitch. There we go. And then it creates the illusion that they are connected. So now I'm just going to weave this end in, and then we're going to do the same thing with this end on this side, and then we're almost done. We're so close. We just have to create the little tie straps here to close our little book sleeve, and then we're done. So let's weave in these 2 ends, and I will be right back. So to do our straps, we're going to start with a slip knot and then connect here in between the middle squares. So right now we're just going to connect right here. This is the very middle, and we're just going to make a chain. So first we can connect by doing a slip stitch into that loop on our hook, and now we're just going to make a chain. I'm going to do a chain of about 30 and see how that looks, and then I will let you know exactly how much I do. Okay, so here's my chain of 30. I think that looks perfect, honestly. So now we can just cut off our yarn. I like to chain an extra 1 because once we pull out our hook and tighten this, it sort of takes off a slip stitch or 2, as you can see. So now we just have to weave in these ends, weave this one into the chain, weave this one into the inside of our book, and then we just do the same thing on this side, chain of 30, and then we turn our work to the back and do the exact same thing on these 2 sides of our square, again in these very middle stitches of the back of our book sleeve, and then you should end with 4 straps. And then you can tie them together to close our book sleeve. And then that's honestly it for our book sleeve. We're finally done. So I will be back after I do the 4 little straps just to show y'all the final look. Okay guys, so I just put in a book just so you could see what it really looks like when we're done, or what your project should be looking like. So here are the little straps we just made, the chains of 30. And of course, all you do is just make a little knot or bow, and that is how you secure your little book sleeve. And you can always make the chains longer if you want. You can take off some chains, and that is our completed book sleeve. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this tutorial was easy enough for you to understand. I know it did get a bit confusing with the flat slip stitches, but I hope you were able to still complete it. So thank you again for watching. I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are. Bye!